Hello everyone, welcome back to Sacred Tarot by Nicole. I'm very excited to have you back today on my channel for tarot card basics. So if you're a beginner tarot card reader, here is some just tips and kind of going through like the basics of tarot cards, because there is quite a bit to take in. It can be overwhelming at times, so I just want to go through with you the basics and kind of where to start. So you want to start by buying a tarot deck, and when you buy a tarot deck, you want to make sure that the tarot deck is really speaking to you, that you're really connected to it. So spend some time looking around for different tarot decks. I do recommend shopping locally, but you can buy a tarot deck on Amazon quite easily. But I definitely support your small businesses. But if you can't find one that in the local shops, then definitely buy one on Amazon, because that is another option. Now, there is a saying in the tarot world that you need to have your deck gifted to you. Now, I do believe in that, because all my decks have pretty much been gifted to me. But for your first one, it's okay. It's okay to buy a tarot deck. And you'll notice that after a while, when you start getting really into reading tarot, a lot of people will start buying you tarot decks because they're like, oh wow, she or he is interested in tarot card reading. So you'll notice that they'll come to you because you start manifesting it. You start putting out into the universe that about what you want, or you can even manifest your first tarot deck. But it is okay to buy a tarot deck. I don't know if I 100% believe in that, but I did believe in it for a really long time, that you do need to be gifted a tarot deck. Just because mine were gifted to me doesn't mean you have to wait till one is gifted. Go out, get your tarot deck, but definitely connect with it. Find that connection. So even hold the cards. You can't open them up, obviously, but when you're in the shop, just hold it and feel it. Maybe meditate on it for a little bit too, to really get the connection and to see and look at some of the illustrations. Sometimes the illustrations will be on the back and you can see a few of the card illustrations, so definitely look at them and see if you connect with them. So the tarot deck used for many beginners is the Rider-Waite Tarot. If you're interested in reading tarot cards, you've probably seen this image. So this is the deck here. Now, this one isn't open because this is going to be a giveaway when I reach a certain milestone. Now, I'm not going to say the milestone that I want to reach with YouTube. I'm going to keep that a secret. But the Rider-Waite Tarot deck, it's kind of, a lot of people think that that's kind of was one of the original decks. So they have the illustrations in the Rider-Waite Tarot deck are quite elaborate, and they're quite, I'll show you the book here. You can see that a lot of the illustrations are quite detailed, so that's really good when it comes to your first interactions with tarot cards, because you want to be able to look at the card and feel the energy of the card and connect with it. So I also have my first deck that I used. I've had it since I was 15. I talk about it in a lot of my videos. So I've had it for the last 20 years, and they're still in quite good condition. They are smaller, but I really like the illustrations on here. They're very, very detailed. Let's get a nice one here. So the Ace of Cups. As you can see how detailed and beautiful this card is. So this is a really good deck to use for your first deck as well. So Mary Hanson Roberts is the illustrator there. And again, try and shop locally, but if you can't find the specific deck, you can find it on Amazon. Now, I want to also mention the difference between oracle and tarot cards. So tarot cards, there's 78 cards in the tarot deck. Oracle cards is usually about 44. There's not as much structure in oracle cards as there is in tarot. Tarot cards have been around for much longer than oracle cards. So tarot cards, they say there is a record of them being used as playing cards in Italy and France as early as the 1400s. So when we talk about tarot cards and we talk about oracle cards, I find they're a lot easier to read. They usually just have either one message on there, and then you can really tie in these cards with a lot of readings, tarot card readings, and they kind of help tie in a lot of the stuff a lot of the messages that are coming through on the tarot cards. And then some of the oracle cards will have little messages at the bottom here. So this one is get grounded, empaths, highly sensitive, connect to nature. So there's just a bit more of a message there. And I usually don't use the book when it comes to oracle cards, because I feel like I can really feel the energy, and a lot of the oracle cards have really beautiful pictures on them, so you can really get a lot from oracle cards, and they are I find a lot easier to read than tarot. Tarot took me a long time to get really comfortable with reading every card. So there's 22 major arcana and there's 56 minor arcana. And what that means is the major arcana are things like the Fool, Magician, High Priestess, Emperor, Empress, Death card, Devil, World, Star, the Moon, Judgment, Chariot. I feel like I'm missing a few there, but those are the major arcana. And then the minor arcana are all the suits. So you got the Pentacles, or they're known as coins sometimes. You have the swords. I don't think there's another term for swords, but it could be knife. I haven't seen that in my experience with tarot or any of my tarot decks. With the wands or the rods, I've seen both in my tarot decks. And then we also have cups. And then I've also seen chalices in one of my tarot decks. They instead of using cups, they use the word chalice. And I just wanted to actually go back to the little bit of the history. So give you an idea of how long the tarot has been around and why there is a lot more rules and a lot more structure to tarot cards, is because 1400s is like the earliest on record that tarot cards were being used. And they were playing cards at first. They were playing cards, and then not until closer to like the 1800s was when they started using them for divination purposes, so divination tools. And it was wealthy families that would use them to practice in the occult. Now, oracle cards were more introduced in the early 1900s, so kind of around the same time, I feel like, but tarot has a much bigger history, and then the oracle cards came much later. So I feel like oracle cards, when they came out, I feel like it's an easier stepping stone with the oracle card. So I do recommend getting an oracle card deck first, and then feeling the energies, getting connected with it, and then moving to tarot, or do both at the same time and compare the two, because they are quite different. And I feel like the tarot has a lot more structure and a lot more rules when it comes to the tarot. And I want to mention too, like a lot of the books that when you start reading tarot, they're quite different. So there will be, and it's really good to compare and contrast. That's how I really picked up tarot in the beginning, was looking at the books, reading all the books I can. The Tarot Bible is a really good one. So Sarah Bartlett is the author of this one, the Tarot Bible. You can see like it's pretty rough around the edges for me because I've used it for so long. And this was the first book that I used. So I got this one was 20 years ago. And just comparing and contrasting, and there is reverse readings in here, but I do recommend, we'll get into that in the next video, because don't use reverse at first. It can be too overwhelming. It can be too much to take in. And I do recommend keeping a journal of your readings and the cards that you pull. So, I do recommend pulling a card a day. Pulling one card a day, getting the feeling from the card, what the energy is coming off of the card. And in the next video, I want to talk about spirit. So messages from spirit. At first, you may not understand it, or it took me a long time to understand it and to really know what was coming, the messages that were coming to me and what channeling was. And it took me a long time to figure out what was actually happening to me during readings. So in the beginning though, baby steps. So start slow, because it can be very overwhelming. And start slow. Take a card, journal about how it makes you feel, because if you pick another card maybe later in the week, it could make you feel completely different. And it's a good way to just get used to the cards. It's a good way to learn the cards and learn what kind of energy comes off the cards. The main purpose of tarot cards is to give guidance and to give kind of direction in people's lives. And I think they're lovely. They've helped me so much in my life. And I want to share my experience with you and how much tarot cards and tarot readings mean to me. So when you get your first deck, definitely, start drawing the cards daily, or even like a couple throughout the day. Journal, write through them, and practice on friends. Practice with friends. And then in the next video, we'll start talking about doing like a bigger reading, and a reading for someone else, like on an individual. So I started with parties and fundraisers, and sometimes I would do group readings, and we would do it like, it was more in a party like atmosphere, like I don't want to say like fun atmosphere, because I still have a lot of fun doing private readings, but it was more like it was easier, and it was not as much pressure. When you start doing private readings and you're one-on-one, there's a little more pressure, because these are people's lives. So I actually, before we go, I just want to mention how I cleanse my cards. Some people use sage, so it's very important to cleanse your cards in between each reading. So make sure to use something. I use clear quartz, and it's a pendulum that I let spin around the cards, because it'll soak up the energy. Clear quartz soaks up energy, and especially negative energy. So any attachments that are on the cards, it just soaks it up. So, and I use this deck the most for my private readings. So there's a lot of energy being cleared from that. All right, thank you very much for tuning in. So remember, there is going to be a part 2 to this video. So thank you for tuning in right now, and we will see you next time for part 2 of tarot cards for beginners. So tarot card basics. So thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure to, like this video or subscribe to my channel, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.